top left corner, I'm speaking for Jacksonville, my city. And of course, you can do it in Atlanta, Chicago, or anywhere. It's just a snapshot. My city, Jacksonville, Florida. The following data, top left of page 2, we're still on. The following data represents the statistical disparity between blacks and whites in my city. Jacksonville has a population of approximately 860,000 people. Census data indicates that approximately 60% of the population is white, while roughly 30% is black. This is an important factor in getting a true picture of what is happening in my city. Total homicides, 2004 to 2012. The white actual number of homicides, the actual number that were killed, 300 homicides. You'll see the next line is black equal representation. What that means is if blacks were killed at the same rate that whites are, there should have only been 150 homicides. Instead, there were several 144 homicides in that same time period. 2004, the white actual homicide victims, 34. The black, if the blacks died at the same rates whites did in homicide, there would have been 16. But instead, there would have been 17. Instead, there were 85. 2012, homicides. White actual, 31 homicides in 2012, white victims. If blacks had died at the same rate as their white counterparts, it should have been 16 homicides. Instead, in Jacksonville, it was 81 homicides. Total homicides, children aged 22 and under. This is children dying, 2004 to 2012. 60 white children in that 9-year period. Had blacks died at the same rate, there would have been 31 children. Instead, there were 254 children killed in Jacksonville, Florida. Homicides by race and age, 2004 to 2012, a 9-year period. Whites, infant to age 89, the youngest victim to the oldest victim, there were 300 victims. Blacks, infant to age 24, there were 312 in that age range. Age 25 to 40, 307. Age 41 to 87, 125. Homicide calendar. Beginning on January 1, 2004, it took nearly 9 years for the total number of white homicide victims to reach 300. It took only 42 months for the black homicide victims to reach that same threshold. Persons living with HIV and AIDS in the 5-county area, white actual, there's 2,600 persons. If blacks had infection rates equal to white, it should be 1,300 persons, when in fact, in reality, it's 6,125 persons. Median household income. In 2011, the median income for white households in Jacksonville was approximately $53,000. The median income for black households was approximately $33,000. Household income has followed this trend for the last decade. Misdemeanor and felony arrests, 2008, 2009, and 2010. White actual, there were 60,844 arrests. If blacks were arrested at the same rate, there should have been 31,627. But in actuality, there were 71,325 arrests. Percentage of Duval County, that's our county for those of you on iChurch, public school students reading at or above grade level. 3rd grade, 81 versus 57%. 4th grade, 82 versus 53. 5th grade, 79 versus 53. 6th grade, 75 versus 46. 7th grade, 78 versus 51. 8th grade, 66 versus 38. 9th grade, 60 versus 24. 10th grade, 50 versus 17. Somebody say, you're trying to say something about black folks? Try to say something about our city and about our country. On the right column, the following data, my nation, the United States of America. I know many of you are outside the United States. I don't speak for that. I'm just talking about our country. Some of the statistical disparity between blacks and whites in my nation is right here. The U.S. has a population of approximately 300 million people. Census data indicates that approximately 78% of the population is white, while roughly 14%, again, it shifts Hispanic and, white, Hispanic, black alone, etc., but just for simple math. This is an important factor in getting a true picture of what is happening in my nation. U.S. black and white murder victims. On the left pie chart is what really happened. What really happened 2004 to 2011, 53,000 whites, 4,400 other, 54,631 black murder victims, total of 112,000. In America, if it was equal, if blacks died at the same rates white died in murder, it would have been 53,000 whites, 4,400 other, and blacks would have been 9,555. A difference of about 45,000. 45,000 black murder victims over. 45,000 over. Let me explain this to you. In Jacksonville, Florida, if you line up every 100 living people, if we took 100 people in Jacksonville and lined them up shoulder to shoulder, and I stood in a line shoulder to shoulder, 30 out of those 100 people, as I stand in this line, 30 of those 100 are black. I'm in a line of 100 people, 30 are black, in this line of 100 people. If I stand in the line as a living person, 30 are black. But if I take all the body bags of homicide victims and lay them down 100, 30 of the people in the bags are not black. 70 of the body bags are black. So when the people that live, only 30 out of 100 are black, but when the people that are killed, 70 out of 100 are black, something's wrong. In our country, there's about 240 million white candidates for homicide. It means if I gathered all the white folks up in a room and I took a homicide water balloon and I threw it in the air and it splashed, and then I said, okay, everybody that got any water on them, you're a homicide victim. That homicide victim hit 53,000 white folks. That homicide balloon hit 53,000 white folks. There's only 40 million black people in our country. So if I put all them in a room, much less candidates in a room. But for some reason, the water balloon hits way more. It hits an unfair share. So basically, if you look just at this top graph, the black folks died, 9,500 of them died just to carry their weight in the homicide election program, but they died almost equal to carry the white folks' weight in it too. Now here's what we have to figure out. If we're going to elect people to homicide, we have to find out what is the fair percentage, what is the fair rate. What is a fair rate for somebody to be elected? And then we have to figure out why there's a difference. In other words, if we had 240 million white candidates and we say, we vote 53,000 of you into the homicide office, and then we had 40 million black candidates and we voted 54,000 of them, why do we overvote? You say, well, let's do this. If white people are killed, 0.9 out of every 100,000, if white people are killed at that rate and we decide, well, it's fair for black people to be killed at that rate, there should only been 9,000 homicides, black homicides. Or if we say, no, the amount of blacks that are being killed is an acceptable rate, then you know what we have to do? We have to find out why the white homicide rate is not 300,000. Whatever it is, something's skewed. We can say all day long, we got a black president, all that's behind us. No. Something is going on in our nation that the Bible says we can't look at and go, I didn't see that. No, we have to look at what we see. Now, tomorrow morning, some are going to say and others are going to say, and I don't care. Some blessed man picked up this down at the newspaper down at 4 Times Union, he made all that stuff up. He made all that stuff up. That's all he's just doing is making that stuff up. Let me continue. I'm trying to be Christian. This is a church. I try to make sure I'm... Listen, ignorance and silence, I love it. Ignorance and loud speech, silly. Let's quickly. U.S. black and white murder victims, 2004 only. On the left is what really happened. Look at the pie chart. Well, Pastor, what's the big deal? Blacks and white, they're pretty evenly split. But when we stand up living, we're not evenly split. So we shouldn't be evenly split dying. You're trying to say you want to kill more white people? No, dummy. Lamont, you dummy. No. What would it have been in 2004 if America wasn't slanted? It should look like the right side, 69-29. It should only have been 1,244 blacks if they were killed at the same rate, but instead we had 6,600. So I don't understand, these are small numbers. 300 million, does it even matter? Yeah, it matters. Well, heart disease kills more, auto accidents kill more, and it does. But those are accidents, those are out of our hands. But it speaks to us about a country, what other men do with their hands. That's our weight as a country. The fact that a brakes gave out and people died, that's horrible and it's awful and it's terrible. But it doesn't say about our morality. This murder says something about our morality. The Bible says when you see bloodshed in the land, it says you've got to stop the bloodshed in the land so there's not a curse on the land. Next chart, 2011, so people don't think you made that up from 1967. 2011. Somebody say, why didn't you do 2012? Jacksonville's numbers were available. The country's numbers weren't available. It takes a while for them to get it together. On the left pie chart, 58, 125 whites, 510 other, 6329. This according to the FBI. You know how they make stuff up. 12,664. But look at what it should have been. Do you see what this does to our murder rate? Up at the top, instead of being 112, it cuts it to 67. If we just fix the overrepresentation, Instead of being 14 in 2004, it drops to 8,700. Instead of being 12,600 in 2012, it drops down to 7,300. Let's look at this. Total murders, children age 22 and under. This is in our country, 2004 to 2011. The white actual children, 22 and under, 11,694 victims. 11,694 victims in an 8-year period. If blacks died at the same rate, it would have been 2,099. Instead, look how many children, 14,778. That is, listen, every child dying is unnecessary. This is grossly unnecessary. National prison and jail population, state, local jails, county jails, state prisons, federal prisons. The white actual inmates, 2011, 845,600. If blacks got elected to go to prison at the same rate whites did, it should have been 174,722. But instead, the actual number is 857,700. U.S. new diagnosis of HIV and AIDS in our country, 2010, white men, 12,111. New diagnosis, white women, 1,733. Black equal representation, if it happened among men at the same rate, it should have been 2,273. If it happened among women at the same rate, it should have been 359. Instead of being 2,273, the actual was 15,444. The actual, instead of being 359, was 6,268. Children and adolescents living with the diagnosis of HIV and AIDS as of 2009, the most recent statistics, white actual, 273,480. If it was happening at the same rates, it would have been 56,508. Black actual, 333,000. How come the smallest number of people have the highest numbers? Something wrong with our country. U.S. population living at or below poverty, white actual, 32,166,000. 13% of all whites live under poverty. If 13% of all blacks live under poverty, it would be a number of 5,533,000. Instead, in our country, the way it's slanted, it's not 13% of all blacks, it's 27.5% of all blacks, 11,730,000 people. U.S. children living at or below poverty, under 18. White equal representation, 5,002,000. 12.4% of all white children live under poverty. If 12.4% of all black children live under poverty, it would be 1,376,680. But that's not what happens here. 39% of all black children live under poverty. 4,362,000. Now, the national education does grades differently. They only go 4th, 8th, and 12th. I did these. These were the most recent statistics that they had. They didn't have 12th grade for 2010. But if you look at 2010 Jacksonville, 2010 United States, 4th grade, 79% versus 49, 85% versus 59. Something needs to be addressed. Go to the next page.